Have you ever looked at a world map and just kind of wondered how we ended up with all these neat, colored-in countries? Because believe it or not, it wasn't always this way. This idea, the idea that a whole people should be united by language, by culture, and history into one single nation, it's a powerful one. And it's actually surprisingly recent. Today we're going to dive into how this one idea literally redrew the map of Europe and really shaped the entire world we live in.
So our story kicks off not with a battle, but with a dream. What you're looking at is a print from 1848 by a French artist named Frédéric Soriot. He called it the dream of worldwide democratic and social republics. And listen, this is way more than just a pretty picture. It's a vision, a utopian fantasy that perfectly captured this massive hunger for freedom that was just sweeping across Europe at the time.
Now look closely. Down there in the front, you see all those broken crowns and scepters? Those are the shattered symbols of the old world. Soriot is making a huge statement here. The age of kings, of absolute power, it's over. A totally new world is being built right on top of its ruins.
And right in the middle of it all, you've got the figure of liberty. In one hand, she's holding the torch of enlightenment. That's all about reason and progress. And in the other, the Charter of the Rights of Man. So this isn't just about changing borders on a map. It's about a revolution in ideas, freedom, equality, and actual rights for citizens.
And this really gets to the core of it all. See that long line of people kind of snaking its way through the image? They're not just a random crowd. They are carefully grouped into nations, each with its own unique flag and costume. You've got Americans, French, Germans, Italians, all marching together right past the Statue of Liberty into a brand new future.
All right, so this incredible idealistic vision is our starting point. It's the goal. But, to really get why this dream was so powerful, we need to take a look at the reality people were so desperate to escape.
The Europe of the mid-18th century looked, well, nothing like Soriot's dream. It was just a chaotic patchwork of empires, kingdoms, and teeny-tiny principalities, all ruled by monarchs who basically saw their lands as their own personal property.
Yeah, the system they were living under was called absolutism. It meant the king or queen had total, absolute, unrestrained power. You weren't a citizen with rights, you were a subject. And that was the old world order that nationalism was about to completely shatter.
For a perfect example, just look at the Habsburg Empire. It ruled over what we call Austria-Hungary. It wasn't a nation at all. It was more like a patchwork quilt of totally different peoples. You had German-speaking aristocrats calling the shots, you had Italian-speaking provinces, you had Magyar speakers in Hungary, Polish speakers in Galicia, and then a whole mix of Bohemians, Slovaks, Croats. The list just goes on and on. They didn't share a language, a culture, nothing. The only thing holding that whole massive empire together was their loyalty to one guy, the emperor.
So how in the world do you get from that messy reality to the dream of unified nations? Well, the answer starts with a spark. And that spark was the French Revolution in 1789. See, the French revolutionaries didn't just get rid of a king. They basically invented the modern idea of a nation. And they took very deliberate steps to do it. First, power was ripped away from the monarch and handed to the citizens. Then, they introduced these new ideas of la patrie, the fatherland, and le citoyen, the citizen, which created this sense of a united community. The old royal flag was out and the tricolor was in. And crucially, a central government created one set of laws for everybody. For the very first time, people started to feel like they were part of something called France.
But this powerful new idea didn't just stay put in France. Oh no. It got a delivery service, carried across the entire continent by one of history's most complicated figures, Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, at first, as Napoleon's armies were marching across Europe, a lot of people saw them as liberators. Look at this German almanac from 1798. It actually shows the storming of the Bastille right next to a German fortress. The slogan even reads, "The people must seize their own freedom." People were genuinely excited about these revolutionary ideas. But that excitement, that honeymoon phase, it soured really fast. This German painting shows a totally different story. Right here, the French soldiers are the bad guys, the oppressors, harassing local people and stealing their stuff. The dream of being liberated was crashing head-on into the harsh reality of being occupied. So Napoleon was this walking paradox. On one hand, he spread all these amazing revolutionary reforms, like the Napoleonic Code, and that was a huge deal. It meant everyone was equal before the law for the first time. He got rid of feudalism. But on the other hand, he brought heavy taxes, censorship, and he forced people from all over Europe into his armies. So he'd bring you the idea of freedom while also taking your actual freedom away. And here's the irony. In resisting Napoleon,
all these other peoples, the Germans, the Italians, the Spanish, they started to discover their own national identities for the very first time.
Let's just zoom out for a second to see how fast all this was happening. The Napoleonic Wars kick everything off. After Napoleon finally falls in 1815, the old kings try to stuff the genie back in the bottle. But it's too late. The idea of the nation is out there. By 1848, the same year as Soryu's print, revolutions are just exploding all across the continent. Fast forward to 1871, and Germany is a unified country. And by the early 1900s, nationalism is this unstoppable force, tearing the old Habsburg and Ottoman empires apart. So, this idea is spreading like wildfire. But ideas need people to believe in them, to carry them forward. So who was the main audience for all this? Well, it wasn't the old aristocracy, and it wasn't just the peasantry. It was this brand new social group, the educated commercial middle class. You know, doctors, lawyers, businessmen.
And their guiding philosophy was something called liberalism. For them, it boiled down to freedom for the individual, equality for everybody under the law, and this is the big one, government by the consent of the people. And right there, that's where liberalism and nationalism got tangled up together. They saw the nation as the perfect vehicle to make their liberal dreams a reality.
And when you look at what they wanted, you can see why the nation-state was so incredibly appealing. A unified nation meant, first off, an end to all the privileges the aristocracy had. It meant a constitution and a government that they could actually participate in, and for these business-minded folks, it meant a single unified national market with no internal taxes and one set of laws. That makes it way easier to trade and get rich, right? So the nation-state wasn't just some idealistic dream. For them, it was a deeply practical goal.
Okay, so we've seen how this whole idea of the nation got started, and we've seen who it appealed to. But that still leaves us with the most fundamental question of all. What actually is a nation?
I mean, is it just a bunch of people who happen to speak the same language? Or live on the same piece of land? Or maybe they share the same religion or ethnicity? Thinkers all through the 19th century were wrestling with this, really trying to pin down the secret ingredient that holds a nation together.
And maybe the most incredible answer came in 1882 from a French philosopher named Ernst Renan. He basically argued that a nation, it's none of those things. He said a nation is built on a shared memory of a heroic past, sure, but more importantly, on a present-day desire to keep living together. And he wrapped it all up with this powerful idea. A nation's existence is a daily plebiscite. It's a daily vote, a daily choice that its people make to continue their life together. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? If a nation isn't some ancient thing set in stone, but it's an active choice that we all make every single day to be part of this large-scale solidarity, what does that mean for us right now? What are we in our own nations choosing today?